Welcome to Breaking Into an Industry, how to jumpstart your professional marketing career and gain a competitive advantage. I want to thank Cal State Fullerton and the American Marketing Association for asking me to present today. My name is Lacey Shane. I'm the CEO of Real Women, Real Success. I'm an influence coach, and I'm also the co-director of the Women's Leadership Program at Cal State Fullerton in the College of Business and Economics. My background is I have 30 years in nonprofit management. I was 20 years serving as CEO. I served 5 nonprofits during my entire career, and the last nonprofit that I ran, I actually founded it and built it from the ground up. Each nonprofit, each of the 5 was in a different industry, so I'm very familiar with how to break into a new industry. And as I mentioned, I'm also an influence coach. My company is Real Women, Real Success. I'm an author and a speaker, and I have a book coming out called Advancing Through Influence, using your 5 and 8 female strengths to break through power barriers and advance your career. I mainly focus on women in my coaching practice because while we are 57% of college graduates, we're still only 6% of corporate CEOs. So that's an issue of equality that I'm very interested in. And as I said, I'm also co-director of the Women's Leadership Program at Cal State Fullerton. So to give you some idea of the bouncing around of breaking into a variety of industries that I've had the pleasure of doing throughout my career, I went to school to be an elementary school teacher, and I actually did that for 1 semester. I was a kindergarten teacher for 1 semester in the 80s. They had a shortage of teachers, and they were actually paying student teachers, so I got the chance to try that out. And while I was doing that, I had to put myself through the rest of my credentialing work because my father passed away, who was paying for it. So I had to get a job. I got a job through a temp agency, and that job happened to be with a nonprofit. And this just really sang to my heart, so I decided to stay. I felt like this is what I want to do. I want to help people and groups of people reach their goals. That's my mission statement. It's been my mission statement ever since I got that job. And that was with the California Glass Association. So that industry was architectural and automotive glass. When I had done what I felt was all I could do there, and I became the EVP there, so just second in charge, I went to the water industry. It's the drinking water industry. Water utilities were my members, so entirely different industry. From there, I went into the forestry industry, working with the U.S. Forest Service, another completely new industry. And from there, I hopped into local government and politics, another new field to break into. And after that, in 2016, when I retired from my 30-year career, I jumped into coaching and becoming an author and being a force for professional development, particularly for women. And I also took a consulting job at Cal State Fullerton in higher education, and I also invest in real estate. So I'm very familiar with breaking into industries, and I'm glad to share with you what I know today. So the first thing I want to say is, I imagine that some of you are already in the industry you want to be in. Some of you are going to graduate and you're saying, what industry do I want to be in? If you already are in an industry, this will work for you. If you're not in an industry, you sort of need to pick one that, my advice is pick the one you like the best. You could probably do that by looking at different job announcements and saying to yourself, this sounds more interesting than that. And just pick one, because you have to do your research. The recurring theme throughout this presentation is just that you have to do your research in order to break into an industry. You have to do your research. And there's 2 primary ways that I think there are to do that. It used to be only 1, but now there's 2. LinkedIn is an invaluable resource. If you're not utilizing LinkedIn to its full potential, to its full advantage, if your profile isn't optimized, there are, I think I heard a stat, 2 million hires are made a day on LinkedIn. Recruiters are hanging out there. So if you want to be somebody who's somebody in the marketing field, make sure you are all over LinkedIn and stalk the marketing professionals there and the articles that are written. There's going to be tons of articles about marketing there, about the companies who are involved in marketing, where you might be able to work for a company that gets hired or contracted with to another organization or a company. And of course, those who are hiring, look for those people those companies that are hiring. And I'm starting at a high level here, the 60,000 foot level. You're looking for, what is the industry like? What are the big issues that the industry is facing? What are the challenges that the industry is facing? And read the articles and look at the professionals, see what kind of things they're posting on their LinkedIn, and try to get to know the industry. Think of the new industry you're trying to break into as a person with a personality. You're trying to get to know that personality. And that's what LinkedIn is for. The other way to do it, before LinkedIn was around, this was one of the only ways besides one-on-one contacts, and that was to stalk industry associations. That is absolutely one of the best ways that you can ever find out all that you want to know about an industry. And the cool thing is that usually industry associations will be run by a board of directors. Those are people who got involved in their industry associations specifically to help lead it forward or solve problems. So those people on those boards are great people to reach out to. They're great people to see what articles they're writing, see what they're saying. If there's anything recorded on their website, listen to it. Again, you're trying to get a feel for that industry and what it's like, where it's going, and what some of the problems are within the industry, and who the movers and shakers are and who's hiring. So once you kind of have that, you need to start what I call the listening tour. And the listening tour is a process whereby you go deeper than what you found out just on the internet. You're really trying to tap into industry professionals to give you their take on what the industry is like, what the culture is like. If you're looking at a specific company, maybe you want to know what the culture of the company is like. What is it like to work there? And you're trying to figure out what the problems are that are facing the industry, and also what does it take to succeed? What have the real movers and shakers in the industry done that makes them very successful? So you're going to do this listening tour, and you're going to try to identify, well, it depends on how much time you have, okay? So if you have a limited amount of time, I would say pick 3 to 5 people to try to have 15-minute quick chats with. And I'm going to say that because most of you are students, you have this tremendous advantage because people are so much more willing to spend time helping a student. So use that to your advantage. I'm a Cal State Fullerton student, to your advantage, because you're a lot more likely to get a response. For whatever reason, that's just how we professionals, we like to help the next generation. It's just a lot easier to get an appointment with someone that can really give you good information if you're a student. So make sure you let them know that. So let's say you get 5 people, and I'm going to suggest that you get 5 people at an array of positions. Maybe you get one of those association board members, but then you might ask them, who else is a mover and shaker in this industry that I might get an appointment with? And your list of people to talk to can be way longer. I'm just suggesting that you go for 5 if you have limited time. And if you already have a job in mind, then what you're trying to do is get these contacts to be within that company or having worked at that company, okay? You can do searches on LinkedIn to find out who works at those companies, okay? So there's ways to find out who works at certain companies. And before I tell you kind of some of the types of questions you might ask to get yourself familiar with that personality of that particular industry, is to make sure you use these people's time wisely. It really is a habit that you want to cultivate in your career, to always use people's time wisely who give you their time. Time is money. Time is a commodity. And there's a reason why a lot of people say no to informational interviews or having a student or a potential employee call them, is because time is just so limited. And so you really want to use time wisely and try to never ask questions that you can find the answer to on the internet. Okay, you want to ask good, astute business questions, and you want to ask questions about big problems, big solutions, and the culture. Those types of questions are the types of questions you want to be asking. And always, always, when you get your meeting, thank the individual for their time and let them know you know their time is valuable. And stay to 15 minutes unless they indicate that they're willing to go longer. What you might do is have a timer on your phone and say, I've used your 15 minutes. Thank you very much. We're still talking. Do you have time to continue? Or if not, well, we can stop here. And sometimes other, people will give you more time. So that's completely legit, but you want to be the one that's respecting their time and bringing that up and saying, should we keep going? Okay, so if you actually are applying for a job, one of the greatest questions you could ask is, what is the best way to get this job? What do I have to do? What is necessary? What, from your perspective, what I need to do to get this job? Another one, what is the one thing that I would need to do to set myself apart in this industry? The kind of answer you're going to get to that question is you're going to get, if you've picked a mover and shaker who knows the industry well, if you've picked even someone in management that has been in their job for a while, what you're going to find out is what the problems are in the industry that not a lot of people are taking the initiative to solve. And if you can make that your mission to serve that purpose, to do what you can do to help solve that problem in the industry or within the company, rock star status. You definitely will be setting yourself apart to either in the interview, the application and interview process, or if you've already got the job, within the job. Because the kind of things I'm talking to you about, these are things you want to do throughout your career, even after you break into the industry. So I want you to keep this PowerPoint. I want you to keep these tips, because when you're in the job, you should be doing these same things in order to help yourself advance, to break into the next position, okay? Another good question, what are some of the mistakes you see marketing employees make, and how can I avoid those mistakes? Great question. What is the best way to get a job in this industry? So this is if you don't have a job in mind. If you do, or with this company, similar to question one, what is a problem that is prevalent in the industry that I can help solve? What is the best way to advance quickly in the industry? That's always a great question. You'll get some amazing information that way. What is the best way to stand out in the hiring process? What don't I know that will trip me up if I'm not careful? So all these questions are different versions of kind of the same thing. What does it take for me to be successful? What are the big problems the industry has that I can solve? How can I set myself apart? And the last question, question number 8, is a really, really good one, because it demonstrates your desire for self-awareness. We all have things that we don't know. And the wiser you get, and the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know. That comes with maturity. So one of the ways you can demonstrate your maturity is right off the bat, starting out your career. Let the people know that you talk to, your boss, your boss's boss, the influencers that you're building relationships with. This is a great question. You can ask any of them and demonstrate that you understand self-awareness is really important, and that you want to hear about the things that you don't know. So what don't I know that will trip me up if I'm not careful? Just listen to these answers. And the one thing that seems obvious, but I'm going to say it to you, is take notes on everything, every answer they give you. Don't be afraid that if you're sitting in front of a Zoom call or you're face-to-face that they see you writing stuff down. Tell them, I'm writing stuff down. I don't want to miss a gem that's coming out of your mouth. I don't want to miss anything. So if you don't mind, I'm going to be taking notes. But the other thing that this does, and this can be common among people who are fresh into their careers, and that is to not take notes. And then you find yourself going back to the professional and asking the same question again. This is a tremendous waste of time. It makes that professional see you as not quite the leader they hoped you would be. It looks like you disrespected their time because you didn't take notes. So now you're going back and asking the same question again. It just doesn't serve you and your brand well. So do your marketing for yourself. Take notes and adopt this wonderful habit whenever you're meeting with any kind of an influencer or anybody in an industry that's giving you information about the industry or a job. So when you're asking these questions, you're not just listening for the answers. You want the answers, of course, but you're also listening for some overarching themes. So you're looking for, what advice did I get out of this 15-minute meeting or longer? Look at your notes and say, what advice did I get? What did I find out that is pertinent to my advancement or my getting hired? Listen for the language of your industry. Just as every industry has a personality, every industry has a language. It has acronyms, it has phrases, it has words that are used within that industry primarily. So listen for the recurring terms, phrases, the language of the industry, and take note of that. If you've interviewed 5 people and they've all referred to something in a certain phrase, that's a phrase that needs to become part of your DNA. You need to adopt that. It needs to go in your resume, your cover letter, in your interview. It's language that you need to adopt for yourself so that you can break into the industry. Listen for themes, not just the mission and goal of the organization, but what are some trends of problems in the industry? What are the things that, of all the people you've interviewed, more than one of them is picking up on and noting? If you have 3 or more that are picking up on something that is maybe a trend or something going on in the industry, then that's something you really want to take note of, because it's an opportunity in a lot of ways. Depending on what it is, it'll always be an opportunity for you. You want to take note in these interviews of the culture that they're conveying to you. So okay, so go back to personalities. Every industry has a personality, just like a person. Every industry has a language, just like a person. Every industry has a culture, and so do companies, as you know, just like people do. I go home, I have a different culture than, say, my best friend or some work colleagues. I have a different culture at home. So what you're trying to pick up on is, what is the culture of this company or this industry that you can fit into? Like, for instance, let's say you wanted to break into the legal profession and you say, I want to be a partner one day. And I know none of you are attorneys, at least I don't think so, because this is a marketing conference. But let's say that you're in the legal field profession. It is cultural there that you work 7 days a week, that you're always on call, that it's a tremendous amount of hours per day, 14, 16 hours a day. That's the culture. Okay. So you're looking for those kinds of things. That is might be changing just a slight, but like a tad, but that is an overarching cultural reality of the legal profession. So you're looking for cultural characteristics of your chosen industry so that you can meld with it. If you don't meld with it, you may want to consider not pursuing that industry. You're looking for pathways to get where you want to go. So don't just think about your first job and getting hired, but think about, and I know sometimes we don't know this. We work with young people in the Women's Leadership Program here at Cal State Fullerton, and we find out with the girls who come back 5, 6, 7 years later, their paths just went so differently than they thought. But that's okay. It doesn't mean you have to follow the path. Just take note of what are the paths, the recurring paths that you're sort of hearing about that are the way through the industry to get promoted, to have a real presence and a real meaningful role within the industry. What does that take? Connections. These people, if they're giving you a meeting, put them on your list to stay in touch with. Ask them if you can stay in touch with them. If some of them are movers and shakers or higher than you are going to be when you get hired, you definitely want to have a connection with them so you can continue your listening tour as time goes on, because those questions will remain similar, but you'll need updating on those as you grow as a professional. As you change as a professional, the answers to those questions will change. Industries sometimes change. So those connections will be your lifeline, will be, we're going to talk about mentors in a minute, but can serve in a mentoring capacity to you. Okay. And the movers and shakers. So you may not be meeting with all the movers and shakers, but who are the movers and shakers? Like, if you're asking, what does it take to be great in this industry? What does it take to really be successful? Chances are you're going to hear about people who have been really successful in the industry. If you've gone to the association to really do some digging and research, then chances are you've found out about who some of the movers and shakers are. So figure out who those people are. Figure out why they're so notable within the industry, why they're well known or well respected. And the minute you get into the industry, the minute you get your job, try to start building a connection with them, a relationship with them. And then, of course, listen for job opportunities, because just because you're applying for one job doesn't mean there might not be job opportunities in other places. And if you're picking up on something in your listening tour where there might be some other opportunities, feel free to ask about it. Okay, once you have a target company, you're going to go through some similar research again. And this really has to do with the way that you approach applying for the job. I help a lot of people work on their resumes and cover letters. In fact, I'm going to drop a link down here for you right now on a guide that I just wrote for my audience about how to write a winning resume and cover letter that gets you the job interview. There's a lot of competition out there right now, and you want to set yourself apart. So there's a link in the chat down here that I just put in, and check that out if you want to. You'll have to subscribe and and just download it. It's too big to give to you through an email. So download it, and then if you want to unsubscribe, great. Women, I give out free coaching and tips every week, so you may want to stay on the list, but you can download that resource for yourself. And this is a few of the things that are in it. Every job takes research. You want to look at the company website. You want to look at their strategic plan. You want to look at their annual report. You're looking for things, again, all the stuff we talked about. What is the culture there? What is the language? What is important to the company? What are their goals? Where are they going? Do they even have a strategic plan? If they don't, and it's a bigger company, I would be concerned about that. They may not have a lot of direction. So you're looking for, again, the personality of the company. And don't discount the idea of calling ahead and asking if you can talk to someone about the job. You can ask similar questions. Tell me what the job is like. What does it take to be successful in it? What do you think the leading candidate will have that gets them the job? Ask these questions when you call ahead. And if they say no, you can't talk to someone ahead of time, that's common. But what if they say yes? You're going to get insider information that's going to help you resonate with the hiring manager a lot more than a candidate who hasn't done that. So with all this information, you're going to tailor your resume and your cover letter. We don't have time to go into depth in this. That's why I say download the guide that I've just given you a link to. But you're basically going to take the language you've learned, the culture you've learned. You're going to be looking at the job announcement. Think about this, the job announcement. That job announcement, you need to know it like the back of your hand, because a job announcement typically has involved all the right leadership in crafting it. A job announcement doesn't go out from HR. The person who's going to be the supervisor of the position, HR, related staff, a lot of times, a lot of people have their hands in a job announcement. So you've just got this wonderful document that tells you what they're looking for. It's like market research, okay? You guys are in the marketing field. It's like market research. It's like keywords. You have to use what's in that job announcement and what's on the website to tailor your cover letter and resume to the job that you want. Does it take a lot of time? Yes, it does. Does it make you stand apart? Yes, it does. So it's worth doing, okay? It's worth doing. I'd like to also tell you, and again, there's more on this in the guide, but use a results-based resume. And what that means is that don't just list responsibilities. Like one of mine earlier in my career, I took notes at the board meeting and distributed minutes. Okay, well, you have to come from the mindset that no matter what task you do, you're always going to try to make it better. If you're not, I'm telling you now, no matter whatever task you have that is a list of responsibilities on your job description, you always must be trying to make those better, because when you do, you will have a result. And that's what people want to know. They don't just want to know, yes, I can put a piece of paper and a pencil together. They want to know the positive outcome of the task. It's not even so important what the task is, it's the outcome that's important. So instead of saying something like, I recorded board minutes and distributed them, it could be, I recorded board minutes and streamlined the way it was written so that it was easier for the board members to read, therefore saving them time, and distributed it within an hour of the board meeting creating efficiencies for board members. You see what I'm getting at? You want to show them the positive impact that responsibility that you took on, that you had made on the organization. Every bullet point you can do that with, do it with it, okay? Because that helps you break into the industry. Just a quick note, your cover letter is not to reiterate what's in your resume. They can see that there. Don't waste that valuable real estate on reiterating what's in your resume. You want to, all these cultural things we've just been talking about, that's what goes into your cover letter. It's your understanding of the issues the industry faces, your desire, your enthusiasm to be involved in solving those problems, your interest in the company mission and where they want to go, and using the words they use in the attributes in the job announcement of the ideal candidate they're looking for. I had a client actually from Uganda. She was applying for a job in the Netherlands, and she had on her resume, or actually she had a CV, but she had an objective. And in her objective, she talked about her characteristics, and they were, I'm a driven, committed, hardworking manager. Well, there was no place in the job announcement that said committed, driven, hardworking manager. What they said in their characteristics and attributes was they wanted someone who was flexible and empathetic and someone who was easy to collaborate with. They could easily have taken what she had written there and taken it as that she's going to run roughshod over everybody. So I encouraged her, and she did end up changing the verbiage. I said to her, can you be flexible? Are you flexible, collaborative? And she said, of course. And I said, well, of course you are. So let's communicate about your attributes that way so they recognize you as the best candidate when they see you. Okay, that's what your cover letter's for. In the interview, you're going to use the same strategy, words, phrases, things from the job announcement, things from the website, things from the people that you've interviewed, especially if they were within the company. Very, very important. And if you can find out who's going to interview you ahead of time, Google them and do what you can to figure out how to make a connection with them. In my second to last nonprofit, I did research. There was a 12-member panel interview that I went through, and I Googled all of them. And thankfully, one who happened to be the president of the association, I had worked with her son at one point in my career. So I didn't say anything throughout the entire interview. I wanted to be fairly casual about it because she was a pretty stoic and serious person. So she wasn't someone who was just naturally a glad hander or a hugger or super friendly. So I waited till the very end of the interview. And as I got up to leave and say goodbye to everybody, I said, by the way, do you have a son named Jonathan? And she said, yes, I do. And I said, I thought that might have been your son. I worked with him several years ago, and I just want to tell you, you did a good job raising him. He's a great leader. And I walked out the door, and that did me a lot of good. I ended up getting the job. So making those connections makes people want you there. It's your job to make people feel like they can't live without you. And this is how you do it. Okay? Once you have the job, start relationship building right away, because you may want to break into a higher level of leadership at the company. Okay? You want to increase your influence. You want to be able to take the paths that you want to take in your career, building influential relationships with your boss, with the people around you, with your boss's boss. Be careful about that. It's important, but you have to do it where your boss doesn't feel like you're going around them. But have a habit of building those relationships, and then people won't be suspicious of you, and it will help you in your career to advance and to know what the next opportunities are going to be. Mentors, I think I'm not a fan of going and asking someone to be your mentor. And the primary reason for that is there is no one person that's going to have all the answers for you in your career. Now, maybe this is true for someone who stays in the same job for their entire career. I am on my second career after a 30-year first one, and I am probably more like you're going to be. I bounced around, as you saw, to a lot of different jobs. That was very unusual in my day. Back when I was starting my career, a lot of people stay in one place their whole career. My husband did that. He stayed at a fire department his whole career. That's not as common now. Even if it is, having one mentor isn't very realistic. I like to think of it like this. Anybody around me can be a mentor on a point or an issue. Anybody can be an example of how to do things right and how to do things wrong. I have as many mentors that showed me what not to do as what to do. So think of it as kind of like what I encouraged you to do with the 15-minute interviews. That's mentoring. You don't have to call it mentoring. You don't have to have that intimidating label, but it's mentoring. And have as many of those as you can, because if you are going off in this direction and your mentor, their expertise is over here, well, then you're going to need someone that has some different sets of skills and experience and wisdom to impart. So be more casual about it. Have several mentors. You don't have to put a label on it. Just ask the right questions and you'll be being mentored every step, every minute of every day if you want to. Okay, commit to lifelong learning. Make the listening tour a habit. So once you're in the job, what do you expect of me? What do you want? You may say, well, how does that help me break into another industry, let's say, or break into a higher level position? Well, you're going to need a reference. And I'll tell you, the best references I ever gave were the people I couldn't stand to see leave me. They were just wonderful. I wanted to give them a wonderful, wonderful reference. And as I skipped around to different organizations, one of the best references I got is, this is a woman who can break into new industries easily because she knows how to listen and learn quickly. So make the listening tour a habit, listen and learn quickly, and you will get that same reputation for yourself. And this is just a rinse and repeat thing. What I'm suggesting to you is a career habit. It's not just something you break in once. You do it your entire career. So the reason why this works, this is my last slide, and I just want to tell you the reason why this works is that it puts you in a position to always be delivering exactly what people want. Okay, it's having a successful career is not about asserting your ideas per se. It's about delivering what other people want, results that other people want. And you can think of it like I placed an order. Everybody has an order in their head, something they want to order from their staff or their company, but it doesn't get communicated. So if you don't know what your boss's expectation is, if you don't know what their order is, if you don't know what they want, make it a point to ask. If they're not showing that leadership, you show it. And that will become part also of your brand, is that you don't ever miss an opportunity to deliver because you always make it a point to understand what to deliver. Okay? And that, my friends, is how you break in to an industry. I want to encourage you to go ahead and email me with any questions that you might have. I'd love to answer them. My email address is lacy@lacyshane.com. And you can go and grab other success resources for yourself on my website, realwomenrealsuccess.com. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next time.